pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with
liberty and justice for all.
all.
All right, someone make a motion to approve our agenda, please.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda.
Sandra, second.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Jeff. Any discussion about the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Public comment, seemed like I got one. Okay, Mr. Ross, come on up.
Thank you. Brian Ross, 16 Schoolhouse Road. Just real quickly, as you guys see on the agenda, I'm at the near the end of my first appointment to the planning board. Just wanted to be known clearly that I've enjoyed it. Hopefully I don't too annoying to our people here, but I hope I bring something positive to it. Even if it is just a little bit excitability sometimes, but I want to continue on. I just want to make sure you guys know that I've appreciated it and hopefully can continue if you guys if you choose to do so. And also, if you miss the farmer's market, you guys miss some really good boiled eggs. Yes.
Awesome. All right, moving on to our consent agenda. Everybody all right with it? Any questions or anything about it? Hearing none?
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Shay approves. I need a second.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Jeff. Any more discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Hearing none. Moving right along, our regular agenda, Harris County Water and Sewer update with Mr. Adam.
Good evening. Adam Sturr, Utilities Director with the City of Hendersonville. Love coming out to Mills River and giving an update on the utility. As a native in Mills River, love coming to the town hall and providing service to my home community. So a couple updates for you guys, and feel free. I want this presentation to be informal, so stop me if there's any questions. Let's see if we can get this. So last year, we had a really big anniversary for our water system. It was the 100-year anniversary of our modern water system. And I think this is important for Mills River because their Mills River watershed is our source water. So 100 years ago, this pipeline was constructed, and that travels originally from the North Fork Reservoir. It traveled 17 miles from the National Forest to a reservoir near Laurel Park. So there's a picture of the pipeline that went in. That pipe is still in service. We use it every day. It conveys, depending where this was taken, it can convey somewhere between 2 to 2.5 million gallons today to about 4.5 to 5 million gallons per day of water. So it's still in use today. This is a picture of the North Fork Reservoir on the Mills River when it was brand new. I've got another photo later in the slides. More currently, we just completed a project. Another photo, this was opening day, July 1923 of the new reservoir. The gentleman turning the valve was actually the governor of North Carolina at the time. So it was a big deal for him. I think it was Cameron Morrison to make the trip up to Hendersonville to start up this water system. So over the years, the water system has grown vastly, including service to Mills River. The water system currently serves about 80,000 people. The sewer system is a little bit smaller, but it serves about 20,000 people, mostly in the city of Hendersonville. Mills River is not served by Hendersonville Water and Sewer. We operate the utility as an enterprise fund, so no tax revenue, as you guys, I'm sure you know, go into the utility. It's solely funded by utility ratepayers. In our current budget year, we have a $24.3 million annual operating budget, and we have 99 dedicated employees that are within our department. Here's an overview of our water service area. So on the left, you can see the water service area is pretty expansive. Mills River, Fletcher, Etowah, Flat Rock, as far down to Saluda. We actually sell water to the town of Saluda. On the sewer side, it's mostly within Hendersonville, Laurel Park, Flat Rock, outlining areas. Give an update on a couple projects. So this was a project that we completed last year, the dredging of the North Fork Reservoir. It was removal of sediment that had accumulated within the reservoir over the years. We also did some maintenance to the dam that is 100 years old. The total cost of this project was about $900,000. These are some photos of the reservoir as it was completed late summer. Big achievement for this project. As you can see on the right, there's a valve that is open and water is flowing through it. So that valve was replaced. It was a 100-year valve. I don't think it worked. So we replaced it with a new one. And the idea is that valve will continue to be open at all times, and it'll naturally carry the water through the bottom of the dam. So that natural sediment, instead of it being deposited behind the dam, will flow naturally through to the stream. So that will prolong the next dredging event in the reservoir, but also that section of stream, according to the wildlife resource folks, were actually considered sediment starved because all the sediment was getting caught behind the dam. So big achievement there, and we hope that that would prolong the next dredging event significantly. Another large project that's under construction right now is addition of our French Broad River intake and pumping station. This will add a fourth source of water for us, and it will have an initial capacity of 15 million gallons per day. And it can be expandable with just dropping some new pumps in and motors to 21 million gallons per day. So the structure will be able to serve the future. This project has been under construction for a little over 2 years now. We anticipate completion late summer 2024, maybe early fall 2024. The total project cost is $23.5 million. Here's a current photo. I think this was taken a few days ago of the intake and pumping station. You can see the intake structure is along the river, and there's 3 intakes with automatic gates that will allow the water to flow in. That water will naturally flow to the brick structure, and that structure will house pumps that will pump the water to our water treatment facility. Another project that will be going to construction later this summer is an expansion to our water treatment facility. Currently, the facility is rated for 12 million gallons per day. On average, the average day, we produce about 7.5 million gallons per day. The busiest day in the summer, peak day, is a little over 9 to 9.5 million gallons per day. So that's the demand that we plan for, is that peak day. So again, this is just dropping in an additional sand media filter structure. You can actually see there's a couple empty concrete structures kind of in the top center of the treatment facility, kind of in this area. So basically, it's just dropping 2 filters into this area to grab that additional 3 million gallons per day capacity. We estimate the cost of this project to be $2.1 million. Another project that I'm sure you guys are well aware of is the NCDOT Highway 191 project. Now, while that is a roadway project, our main water transmission line also follows that corridor. So during the roadway work, there will be several conflicts with the water pipeline, with the proposed road improvements, requiring our existing water line to be relocated and replaced. So we're taking that opportunity to replace that water pipe and expand it to 36-inch and 30-inch water pipe. So this project is in design. I think it's going to construction in 2025. You guys may know better than me. I think it's next summer when that's scheduled to let. It changes a lot. But it's supposed to go to construction next year. The estimated cost for the utility, this is not the greater roadway project, but our estimated cost is $12.8 million. Another project that we have, and this is on the sewer side, but I wanted to share it because we're really excited about it, and I think it has some agricultural value as well. But this is our wastewater treatment facility biosolids thermal dryer. So currently, from our wastewater plant, we produce it's called a sludge, and we currently dispose of it in local landfills. The product is currently not safe for beneficial reuse. So this project is installing a dryer. It's basically a big oven that will further dry the material and heat it to a temperature for a certain time that will remove any pathogens from the sludge. And we will be able to produce a high quality biosolid, very similar to Milorganite that you can buy at Lowe's. That's the city of Milwaukee. They've been bagging their biosolids for a long time, and they sell it at Lowe's. So it does have a really good nutrient content that we would be able to give away for beneficial reuse. Another key feature for this project is we plan to install a solar photovoltaic system to also produce some solar energy to offset some of the additional electrical loads that this facility would require. This project is currently in the design and permitting stage, and we're expecting to start construction later this year. Estimated cost for this project is $17 million. However, we did receive a little over a $14 million grant from the state for this project. So we're very excited about that. We have a lot of other projects going on. If you're interested, this is our capital projects dashboard. It's available on our website to give a good overview of all the projects that I did not mention in this presentation. And with that, I will open it up to any questions that you may have on these projects or anything else.
Any questions?
Mr. Stewart, I was simply curious about, is the capacity of the Mills River as your sole source, is that limited to 12 million gallons? Because I see where French Broad, when you bring that online, that takes you 15 and beyond.
That's right. So currently we have 3 sources of water. There's the North Fork Reservoir in the National Forest. There's another small reservoir in the National Forest called on Bradley Creek. It's a tributary to South Mills River. And the third source is the main stem of the Mills River near Valley Ag. So that intake and pump station at Mills River has a capacity of 12 million gallons per day. It does not have any further capacity past that. So when we add the French Broad River, we'll add 15 million gallons per day, but we still will keep those additional sources. So in total, we should have a little over 30 million gallons per day of available capacity during a normal time. Now, during drought, we're severely limited. We basically cut off our mountain sources or the National Forest sources, and we can get limited on the Mills River, which is then we would switch solely to the French Broad. So it's just additional sources, redundancy for drought, but also providing additional capacity for the future.
Thank
you. Yep.
Adam, how many gallons does the French Broad River flow a day on average? Do we know that number?
We do. I don't know it off the top of
Okay.
my head. It's a lot more than the Mills River. It's a much
Yeah,
larger
sure.
watershed. So it's
I just get to thinking about us pulling 15 million gallon a day on down,
yeah,
but-
it's there's a lot. So when we permit a water source, we the big metric that they use, they're looking at that our intake during a drought, like
Okay.
the lowest water it would be, and I think we cannot take over 20%
Okay,
of that amount. And the French Broad has the available capacity to do that in that drought time.
good deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just curious, you just had your big sediment removal of the North Fork Reservoir.
Yes.
Has that been done in that 100-year window, or if so, do you know when the last time
Previously?
when you had to revisit?
Sure.
issue?
Yeah. So that reservoir was dredged by barge. There was a barge that was floated out there and removed some of the sediment. From my understanding, it was not a very successful dredging. I think there was a lot of woody debris that kind of prevented that barge to get that material out. And that was completed, I want to say 2007, 2008. Before that, I have some photos from the 1970s. Was the last time that the water was lowered and mechanically dredged.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just curious to see that valve that's open 24/7.
Yep.
How much time it might buy this to even
Okay,
still.
sure. So we did some sediment calculations, and without the valve, we expected about 20 years when the next dredging would be. With the valve, if operated properly, it might double that. So it could be up to 40 years the next time that occurs. But operating that valve properly, you would go up and open it completely during a large rain event, and you would shut it partially during normal flow conditions. So we're trying to operate that under that frequency, but it is quite a trip to make it up to the reservoir and catch it on every rain. So, but we do expect it to prolong the next dredging event. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything else? Hear none? Anybody? Staff got any questions? Hear none?
Great.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate the
Yeah.
presentation.
Well,
All right, moving on to B, our ARPA funds discussion.
Okay, request for proposals was issued in February of 2023 for a one-time capital project grant award to nonprofit agencies. Town council at the time had committed $100,000 toward those requests. Our former town manager created a selection committee to review the 8 applications and brought forward a recommendation including 4 that would take up your 100,000. That's what this little chart is. It was Blue Ridge Literacy Council, Mills River Partnership, Mills River Farm Market, and the North South Mills River Community Center, with a recommendation that we fund part of it and ask them to raise the rest of the funds. On April 27th of 2023, council asked all of the applicants to please come and give additional information. And after they did, council did not make a decision. It was tabled to a future time. And that's kind of where the trail died. I'm not sure exactly what happened beyond there. But I can tell you, if you're looking at the second page of that staff report, the first one, the North South Mills River Community Center, they did not come on the 27th. I can't confirm that they may have withdrawn. I could not find Daniel's notes at that point. But they may have withdrawn because they weren't going to get the full amount. The number 6, Steep, they removed their request. There were 2 from the same agency. And that's really all that's all the notes I have on that. Other than you had earmarked 100,000, we also have another $84,106.97 that is still uncommitted, which you could use to further fund things or redirect it somewhere. Staff's recommendation on this is basically award the 100,000 as you see fit, follow the selection committee's suggestion, redirect the funds. At this point, it's been a year. Or if council comes up with another suggestion, basically. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Sue?
Remind me again, what was the interest earned on the ARPA funds that sort of poured into that same pot of money?
That is in your packet as the next sheet. It's $58,719.69. It's near the bottom of your spreadsheet. The difference between the 58,000 and the 84 are funds that you just never assigned anywhere. And of the double snap funds that council agreed to pay the farm market, the agreement is up to 17,500. We've only completed 1 fiscal year of that, and they left money on the table. So that money is back in there.
Okay. So Sue, was you able to find the request that was brought in by hand that didn't get electronically distributed for the Etowah Lions Club for their visioning?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
I did forget that. The mayor did ask me to give you copies instead of just the ones the committee recommended, which are attached to the staff report, everything. And I did email that to you.
Yes.
And I made sure that that one was from the Lions Club.
Yep.
And that has been scanned and included.
Okay. Right offhand, do you got that right there? How much their request was? We can keep it all together right here.
Hang on, I can get that because I organized these so that it's fairly near the top. Wait, that's it. No, they did not total it. So 21,500, 24,500, 25,000.
Okay. Sounds right. So, Andrew, I think we talked last night, you had spoke with the Britons and they still feel like they needed that 2,000 to get their lock boxes and their tablet and stuff.
They did.
Going back up here to the, North South Mills River Community Center, they look to us to maybe donate that property to the town. And I went up and done an inspection of it with Nicole, and it was in desperate need of a lot of construction, so we kind of just left it alone. Not much parking, maybe enough room for 6 or 8 vehicles, so on and so forth. We just didn't find it to be a great fit for the town when we thought we might have opportunity to purchase this next door, so we left that alone.
Okay.
So I don't know where those folks are with any of this. I don't think they've done anything with it.
They did not return when they were invited back to give additional information. I can
Okay.
tell you that.
Literally can't. Another question I'd bring up is the partnership. Are they still in need of this 50,000? Does anyone know for sure?
If you read their proposal,
Mm-hmm.
in some ways it's similar to the one that you funded
Well,
at your last
that's
meeting, but
why I'm
I
getting at.
can't tell you for sure that it's identical.
Right. Anybody else got any questions about this, ideas?
I would rather give more money to Meals on Wheels.
Well, I got a note of that here too.
I mean, we funded, what they asked for, which was still only half of what the 5 people on the waiting list, which still are on a waiting list.
So I
funded in
reached out
July.
to her last week and she told me it would take $2,500 to get those 5 people immediate food in up till July.
Yeah, we funded them now,
Yeah,
have money to fund them now, and
Yeah.
then give them extra, not even, because that 6,000 was only half.
yeah,
If we funded their full meals, and then they could put that other money towards the other people on their waiting list. And if we
Yeah.
covered the Mills River residents
mhm,
in full, and
Right.
let them use the rest of that money for other places, these are all worthy causes.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but, people hungry, I
that's,
think
yeah,
that's an urgent need.
right. Any other discussion, debate, talk?
Well, I'll offer the comment to say that I'd like to see this council come out tonight and go ahead and fund the Blue Ridge Literacy Council partnership and the farmers market, as well as the Lions Club. And I will echo the sentiments of Councilwoman Davis and also include Meals on Wheels. That still leaves us a pretty good sum of money, over $60,000. That's still in the ARPA fund. If Community Club should come back to us, circle back around and we can still consider it
Mhm.
not a full funding, but
Yeah,
I hate to hold on to those funds because reasons that you already said that putting $100,000 up there, I think would be of limited value to the residents of Mills River. I hope at least tonight we can at least go ahead and commit funds to these groups that already come to us and the selection committee is approved, expand it to include the Lions Club and Meals on Wheels.
okay.
Could we
Mhm.
maybe reach out and see if Merlac could use some more funding to help get them through? Cause I don't know if they ask for, I don't know if they ask a bare minimal number or, other number. I think Ruth's here
Oh,
tonight.
yeah, we got a representative. Would you like to come up and speak?
We did not apply for this because it said we had to purchase
Capital gain. Yeah, capital
one
project.
thing.
Mhm.
And there's nothing that just doesn't fit our ministry.
Mhm.
However, we were told that it would be a part B that we could apply for, what we need, like for food supplies and stuff like that. But that never happened. So
Mhm.
that's where we stood on that
Yeah.
money.
Gotcha.
Do y'all still have need for this year?
I mean, it's an ongoing need. I mean,
Right.
we're fundraising and doing grants and things.
Right. All the stipulations on the ARPA fund money's now removed, right?
Yes.
They're always gonna use it. They're always gonna need it. They're always gonna use it.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
I mean,
It's a
It-
great resource.
it just
Right.
keeps going. Whatever we get and, if by chance don't use this year, it just rolls over to the next. And there's always a need.
Could we remember them too when we look and see what we've got?
Well, that's what we need to do. We need to just sit right here and hash this out, I
Are we trying
think.
to
and-
clean this, get this
Yeah.
on, and clean this up and be done with this?
Yeah, please. Let's
And,
just,
and if I could suggest that since we've started with the one-time capital projects, if we could award that before we take what's left and start distributing it another way, just
mhm.
to keep it cleaner
Cleaner.
because this has gotten a little muddy.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Are you done?
I think so. So Jeff, your suggestion would be to take the Blue Ridge Literary Council, the Mills River Partnership and the Farmers Market, the original ones, and fund those to their full amount that the committee had come up with.
Yes, sir.
So if that would help us and Sue out, if you'd make those three by motion, then we'll address the other stuff.
I'd be glad.
Or Sue, let me ask a question. So the Lions Club, it would fit in this scenario because it's a one-time capital expenditure to make that vision van happen.
Absolutely.
So do we need to, would it be cleaner just to put it in this motion?
Yes.
And they were asking for that when I was my previous tenure. They've been asking for that for a while.
Okay,
That's been that's been a need they've had.
Mhm.
so I'll let Jeff make a motion here and I think we can get it right.
Well, then I will move that we approve ARPA funding, the Blue Ridge Literacy Council, the Mills River Partnership, the Mills River Farm Market, and the Lions Club with the amounts that they requested. Maybe enough.
I think that is. I need a second on that motion.
I'll second.
Shay second. Any more discussion on this?
Did that include the partnership also?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You caught up with us, Sir Sue? Make sure.
Yeah, I was missing one on my list and I'm trying to total the math for you.
Okay, yes, thank you.
Patty's catching the motion.
Okay, so we've got those four funded to their request, and I've got a first, a second. No more discussion. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Okay. So now let's move into,
So tell us what kind of money we have left.
yeah. She's
I'm
working.
figuring it's about 66,000. And I'll note my 66,000 includes the interest that we've earned on that funding on top of the 100 that the council designated.
I'm sorry, can you repeat which number?
I'd come up with a remaining balance of 66,000 of ARPA funds, but that includes the interest that town has earned on those funds. It's the
Oh, well-
100 plus the 58.
Okay. If you're adding those numbers together, yes, because I was hearing 66 and taking 92 from 100 and not getting there.
Yeah.
But you're taking the whole 108.
58.
Correct.
Change.
You're just taking the 58, not
No,
the
well, the
84.
starting number was $158,000 and I took from it the 67,000, which is the three requests for the Partnership Literacy Council and, sorry, my computer went dark. But for those three organizations, then additional 25 for the Lions Club, and that left me with 66,000.
And
roughly.
change. Yes.
Answer Councilwoman Davis' question about what did that leave us?
So Shay, can you help us out with what it would take to fully fund that Lions Club? And then she told me a
You
week,
mean
No,
Meals on Wheels Council
Meals on
Aging?
Wheels, yes, Meals on Wheels.
We committed 6,000 for next year, wasn't that right?
Mhm.
And that was
That
half,
was half of the
right.
5 people on the Millsboro waiting list. So if that means it's $12,000 to feed 5 people for a year. And she told you it would be what to put them on right now?
a week,
rest of
a
the
little over a week ago, it was another $2,500 to get them through from this date till July 1st. Cause I had to call and explain to her just to make sure she understood that that money wouldn't be was coming into next year's budget cycle. So she wouldn't get a check until then. And so I just asked her what it would take to get her caught up. And she said another 2,500. So I've been asking some corporations, some businesses and stuff like that to come up with some money to help them out, but I hadn't heard anything.
I had even some town staff members offer to like
Yeah,
match, give
I'm
us-
sure.
Okay.
So I'm
$2,500.
pretty sure by now we could probably say 14 and probably cover everything. And 14,000 would be, we done give them 6, so it'd be an additional 6 plus 2 or 25.
Just give them the 25
Okay, sounds good.
or 8,500.
Are you looking to give them the 2,500 to get through to
Yes,
July 1? Okay,
Yes.
but then that would come from a different pot of money. That would come from this year's operating budget. Or we'll bring you another
Amendment.
budget amendment to move
Okay.
that forward.
well, however it needs to work. We're
Okay.
trying to draw
If-
it
if-
out of that, just as long as we know we're drawing it out of that interest that the ARPA money raised.
Okay, yeah,
That's where we're trying to suck it out of to make it,
I
clean it.
confused myself. That's all right.
okay.
Just keep going.
Okay,
So you said 14?
well, we done give them 6, so they really
Right.
only need $8,500 to make it all happen. Everybody's gonna eat all next year and we can get them from next week till July 1st. Okay. Okay,
So,
So that could be, use some of the interest money to fund those requests. Did we just accidentally double fund money?
No,
This
you
is-
only spent $14,840 of,
So 58 accurate.
actually, no, yeah, what you had left after the 100,000 was 106.97. But Mr. Young was referring only to the interest amount. So there was still going to be money on the table. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, 84 minus 58 is what he was assigning.
Oh.
But-
So we've got Meals on Wheels figured out. So let's talk about Merlac. Where's everybody at with Merlac?
so how much do we have left now?
From the numbers Mr. Young was giving us, I've got 58.5
Yeah,
remaining.
Cause you take 66 minus the 85,
57.
57.
How many other organizations do we have? We've got Merlac, everybody else has been met.
Well, with the last one we did, cause it started out as a capital one-time expenditure project.
Right.
And that's where we're getting off the beaten path a little bit with this. But we're just trying to get everybody taken care of, just like Merlac. They help so many people on a weekly basis.
Right.
It's hard not to support them. And to hear people in Mills River are not getting a meal a day, possibly, that's,
Right.
if we can use interest money for that, that's money well spent where I come from.
And interest money left, you said was
57.5 roughly.
57.5 right now.
Mm-hmm.
Would 25,000 give anybody heartburn?
maybe not this one time. I know it goes to a great cause. I can see her lighting up back there, but I just know what she does with it, you know?
The service they provide for the residents is, I mean, to me, that's where the heart is.
You know,
You're gonna use what you need and you're gonna.
And the rest of it's gonna just roll over.
and here in this, and I hope to see in this upcoming budget, kind of what we anticipate giving away in nonprofits, a number. So when the nonprofits come the next year and the next year and the next year, they kind of, we know, they know that we got so much money earmarked. It's just gonna make it so much easier.
Yeah.
Because we're all coming from the heart with this, but at some point you can't just keep, you know, for me, that interest on that money's, to me, is free money, really.
This was a one-time deal with the ARPA funds. It is not gonna probably come around again.
Oh, no, not in our lifetime, probably. So I've got by consensus, 25 to Merlac, one time here. Everybody okay with that?
And I'll say that I'm happy, or I'm okay with whatever remaining balance we have combined with the original 100,000 that's council designated for one-time capital expenditures for nonprofits, plus the interest, whatever balance that may remain after Merlac. And I think we've already discussed that maybe we can carry that to next year to help underwrite some of our nonprofit fundings. It continues to grow, and we're gonna have to work on where this money's gonna come from. But I don't think we have to designate it all tonight. Maybe we
I'm with you.
Is that-
Yeah,
is
I'm
that
with you.
put some in
to
reserve.
start a fund, a line item for next year. So that leaves 32.5. You carry it over to next year's to go towards nonprofit requests for next year.
Plus there was 25,387.28, which is the difference between the interest and the 84,000. So the way I look at it, I was coming out with 33.5, but I'm doing it on paper. So
Okay.
anyway, it's about 58, almost 59,000 that still remains. And if you're wanting to add it to the general fund, that would be a budget discussion. If you're saying you're going to give it that way, or we can leave it where it is and we can,
Well, let's just make sure that gets talked about at our next budget
I think we're talking
meeting.
about
there.
designating it as
Yeah,
nonprofit is the money we would designate towards nonprofits when they start requesting next year. So we already know we have that pot to start with.
well, those requests that you'll hear next year would be for the following budget year.
Right.
mhm.
So we can just leave it where it is
that-
for now.
Have that money.
And then if you choose to put it in next year's budget, we can do that.
Okay. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, we done approved a bunch of those the last meeting, or
So I guess this carries over to the 26
26.
budget year.
Yeah,
But on
looking-
your
we're looking
ledger,
for
ARPA, you keep it earmarked separately, whether it's interest earned off of the ARPA funds or the ARPA funds original. You can always identify it because you carry it over on different column like your ledger sheet. correct?
Absolutely, I do. Yes.
Does it have to be called something besides ARPA, considering the ARPA fund was supposed to be designated for 24 and spent by 26?
Technically, it's all fund balance right
Right.
now. I keep a spreadsheet to track every dollar of your of your ARPA funds
Right.
until it's all gone. Just
Okay.
so that if anyone ever asks us where it went, we know where exactly to the penny.
okay.
Right.
Sounds like a great idea. All right, so I've got, we got it in our head, we're gonna do the Meals on Wheels, catch them up to this coming week and fully support them next year, 2025, fiscal year 2025 with Meals on Wheels, because we give them half of, they requested 6,000, but they said that would half fund them. And they would try to come up with the rest. So we're gonna try to fully fund the year 2025 with them, but then back up to maybe this coming week, if somebody could reach out to them tomorrow and get that number. I mean, unless we're just gonna give them 25 and make it clean. Oh, no, 8,500 to get it clean. Yeah.
That's was 85.
It's been a rough day. folks.
I understand and you're losing me, but
I just want to make sure that that one gets took care of
The sooner
in the
the-
right way.
anything you've ordered tonight as soon as we can get a memo and get it into accounts payable, it will get funded.
Okay. All right, so good deal.
So next week.
Yes, that's a hope. That's
Okay.
my hope. So I need a motion to approve it and, the,
Marla,
Merlax 25.
I'll make a motion that we approve, $8,500 for Meals on Wheels and 25,000 for Merlac from the funds that were set aside for this year, last year that never got assigned, and that the checks be written as soon as they can get a receipt or a memo date. I
In
guess
that
that's all.
motion, would you, for the Meals on Wheels, would you, prompt it to say that it's to support the
To support
Mills
the,
River people that's needing it?
to support the
However it
Mills
needs
River
to be worded.
residents that were not funded out of their other funds.
Okay.
second.
I got a first, I got a second. Any discussion about those two items? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Okay. Awesome. When staff gets caught up, we'll move on to our 2025 budget review.
If I could just add a footnote to that, to all of that discussion, just so you know, we did fund up to 17.5 for 4 years to the farm market for the double snap program. The first year, they did not spend all of that. So that went into this money we've been discussing. If there's more money left this year and the following 2 years, then this number is going to go up.
That's fine, and we'll hopefully be able just to extend that double snap on out some with that. If
You-
people are not using it and it's still, but it's still working for some, we'll just try to keep it moving forward.
We have an agreement, but that's up to you what you do
Yeah, exactly.
beyond it.
Okay.
I think it would be good to extend it because it's still feeding the residents and helping the farmers. So it's a double win.
Yeah, okay. If you're ready, sir, and staff is caught up.
So tonight is a general overview of the fiscal year 25 budget. And so this is an official handoff. The interim town manager, I'm obligated to present you with a balanced budget. Funds for North Carolina law. So officially, that's what we're doing tonight. This budget balance is official handover, and this is the recommended budget. Before we get into it, I just want to express appreciation to former town manager Cobb for his work before he left. It was instrumental, and also finance director Powell and her work and her review. He's still catching my mistakes, so a few tweaks we need to make based on her review. So we're getting there. So just a few key terms. You saw some of these last year. Fiscal year runs from July 1 to June 30 of the following calendar year. So in other words, the fiscal year 25 technically splits 2 calendar years, starts July 1, 2024, and will run through June 30, 2025. So when we say fiscal year 2024, 2025, you can abbreviate that as just fiscal year 25. The terms of municipality, city, town, village, mean all the same things in North Carolina. Some states vary those definitions. In North Carolina, they're all municipalities and they're used interchangeably in North Carolina. Fund balance basically is your assets, those things that you own unencumbered, less the liabilities. Those are funds that you have that you owe or are encumbered. So you subtract those two and that gives you your fund balance. You have a general fund here in Mills River. Harrisonville spoke earlier about having an enterprise fund. Enterprise funds are basically funded by user fees. So your general fund is funded by property taxes and all the other revenues that we're going to take a look at just in a second. Capital reserves, that's basically a savings account that you guys have started, a very wise thing to have done. And so those funds go into a savings account, a reserve, and those are designated for specific things and must be spent on those specific things. So this year, based on property taxes, projected 1 penny equals 229,000, and that's rounded down, and that's conservative round, but that gives you a general idea of what 1 penny means when we start talking about revenues. So the budget development process. So we met with departments basically March 18th through the 21st. Daniel and I met with departments, and we went through the line items with them, and we believe we funded everything that was requested. Tonight's May the 9th, and then we have 2 workshops scheduled, May the 16th and May 23rd is a second one if you need it. And then you have a public hearing June 13th, and June 27th is the adoption date. And so if you hit the 13th on that date and June 27th on that date, we will have complied with North Carolina state law regarding adoption of your budget. So you guys know the town services the town provides. Much of this is through contract and is outsourced, but building code enforcement is provided by Henderson County. So they have the building inspections department, and that basically is a service that the town could do, but they allow the county to do that. And basically, this is a verbal agreement that we have with the county that they get to keep basically the permit fees from doing the inspections that they perform on the structures within the corporate limits of Mills River. Fire protection is outsourced. It's through the Mills River Fire Department. Law enforcement is outsourced through the Henderson County Sheriff's Department. Parks and recreation services are provided in-house. Planning and zoning is provided in-house. Street lighting and street maintenance is performed in-house, or you do perform that. And so you are performing 4 of the 8 required services that you were told you had to provide the community in order to maintain integrity of your charter. You also have, as best as I can understand, you have now picked up street maintenance, and that is a core service per session law 1999-458. So technically, you're providing 5 services. You only have to provide 4. Tax collections, that's another service that you perform. So you're able to give that extra care and extra effort and extra level of customer service to property owners in Mills River. You don't have to do it that way. You can outsource this to the county like other municipalities do. I believe the county charges basically a fee for administration, and they remit those funds back to that. We can talk a little bit about that just in a minute. And then also, I think in 2021, Mike can elaborate if necessary, but the town started with the watershed protection and improvements program. So those are the services that you're providing. So this is the fiscal year 25 recommended budget. So what's recommended is basically the tax rate that you currently have, and that's 17 cents. And as you guys know, 7 cents of that is used by the town to fund its operations, and 10 cents then goes to the fire department, and it's a pass-through. Again, 1 penny is 229,000. For this budget, the capital investment is just a little over $1 million at 1,092,000, and the operating budget is 6,444,255. But if you basically back out the debt service, then your true operating apples to apples number is basically 6.1, and we have a chart where we can show you that. And that's and then we'll show you how you can compare apples to previous years, looking at actual numbers rather than the numbers that were budgeted. To give you an example, this year, just was speaking with Finance Director Powell, it looks like you're going to be recycling about $500,000 back into your fund balance from funds that weren't spent from the current year's budget. So when you're just looking at budget years in each year rather than actual years, you're looking at a soft target. So it's better to go back and look at actual years that you can mine from your audit reports. And that way you can see what the true expenditure was in a particular year. So I plan to send you line items based on actual years tomorrow and some information on the, on your fund balance. So the total budget that's being recommended is basically $7,536,255. That does represent a 17.6 decrease from fiscal year 24, but that is skewed because of the large expenditure that you amended or you passed in order for the property purchase. So you're looking at about personnel. Currently you have 11 full-time employees and you have 4 part-time employees. And so this budget basically is taking a person who's part-time and that person would be full-time, and that person then would be your deputy tax collector, and that sets the stage for when your tax collector does retire, you have succession plan, and so that you can keep on. And so you may be at that place where you want to decide, do we outsource tax collection now, or do we want to continue to do that in-house? Based on our review of the numbers and my discussion with the tax collector, it's going to cost you less by going with the county and outsourcing tax collection if you do it that way. But what you may find is there's a reduction in level of service. You know, that personal touch may not be there if you choose to do that. So also, if that person is taken to full time, then you certainly have the need to have someone designated on the inside other than your town manager as either your HR person or your HR liaison. And it may mean that you want to outsource HR. And so we've put money in the budget for that if you choose to do that. A finance director position, we're looking at recruiting, hiring someone at the last quarter for fiscal year 25, and that just ensures that you have the expertise that you need to keep the town moving forward. You have a lot of projects coming up, and also the current finance director is looking at retirement specific date, not set yet, but this is to make sure that you can keep things moving in the direction that you need to. And then also for Parks and Recreation, there's a crew leader redesignation of a current position. It's not a additional position. It was meant to redesignate a position, change the structure, reporting structure, provide some more supervision in the field, but wasn't meant to add personnel. So that's not a personnel addition. What's being recommended is a salary wage increase of 1.5% across the board for your employees. This is a interesting chart. So I sat down with basically the folks in the front and just said, just being new to interim, help me understand how much of your time goes to what particular function. And so as you can see, we looked at fiscal year 23. And we also looked at current year, fiscal year 24. And you can see with the addition of deputy tax collector that the clerk duties, deputy tax town clerk, the clerk duties have been picked up by an employee. And then there's been much more attention that's being placed on your, not on that cursor, much more attention is being placed on your finance and has been for fiscal year 24. That is your current year. So previously it was evenly split fiscal year 23 between the town clerk and finance director duties. over here, but you can see now that we have this extra bandwidth in finance, and Finance Director Powell basically is doing a deeper dive on some of the finance work. And so we plan to carry that over into fiscal year 25. But then, as you can see at the end of the fiscal year, that's why down at the bottom, you're looking at a 0.25 FTE. That person would come in the last quarter and get trained for fiscal year 25. And then that helps with keep your operation smooth as far as succession planning goes. Just to kind of give you a snapshot of taxes, this is based on the information that was available at the time. This is 2023, but you can see that Mills River, when you compare yourself to other municipalities in the county, you're basically right. You're not the last, not the lowest tax rate, but you're second to the lowest. So basically, if you look at, I think it's Flat Rock that has a rate that's lower than Mills River. And then if you look at the fire departments, you can see the Mills River Fire Department. I think there's one that has the same rate. I think it's Valley Hill. No, Valley Hill is a little bit less, but then there's one other, I think, that has the same rate as the Mills River Fire Department. So my point is your taxes comparatively speaking are at a low place. You're not at the top. You're actually fighting for the bottom as far as tax rate goes. So you've got some flexibility there. Felt like my charge was to get you through, give you a budget that would keep you going, and with maybe a few tweaks here and there. And so that's what we've delivered. But I just wanted you to see that you've got some area that if you need to raise that ad valorem tax a little bit, you certainly can do that. Just to talk just a minute about your interfund, which is your reserve, capital reserve. So each year, you started that back in 2021, saving for specific things. Finances are in great shape. You guys have been very wise in the way you're handling taxpayer money. So basically it increased in fiscal year 24, and we're basically recommending you keep the same rate, which is 1 penny for Parks and Recreation, and then 3/4 of a penny for fiscal year 25, which is the recommended budget. And you can see at the far right in the red, that's what that is going to generate. And so that will continue to pile up for those specific items, and you'll need to use those just for those specific items. And those are actually programmed into your operational budget as you move forward. So that's $400,000 that you're taking from your operational budget, and you're putting that into reserves for these specific things. So you guys have been looking ahead clearly. This was one of the charts, interesting charts I wanted to show you. So if you looked at your budget message from last year, you're comparing the recommended budget. In this chart, it's on the far right for fiscal year 25. But if you were looking at fiscal year 24 budget message, you're comparing yourself to prior years for the budget numbers that were adopted, not the actual years. And so with this chart, what I did is I backed out debt service and I backed out capital. And so the very top line, for operations. And if you move from 21, 22, 23 on across, you can see what's happening just for your operational side of the organization. So you saw a 6.6% increase from 21 to 22. From 22 to 23, you saw a 12.7 increase. And then from 24 to 23, you had a 33.1% increase. I didn't do the dumpster dive on that to see what drove that up. Some of you may know right off hand. But as you can see, when you move from 24 to 25, you're looking at a 7.1% increase. That's just for the operations side of this budget. Capital has decreased. We'll talk about capital just in a second, but understandably so. And when you have a budget that's so small, and you have these large expenditures and you're paying cash and you're taking big chunks out of your fund balance to pay for these, you've got to put them in the budget somewhere. Well, it skews your total budget for a small budget. If you're borrowing money and you're paying debt service, then you can predict, and it's much more, you don't see the rises and falls, the drastic swings, when you finance projects, like that. So just wanted to point those out. Expenditures broken down by category. You can see the number one is fire. That's at 2.2. And as you guys know, that's the 10 cent, and it's basically a pass through. So it's collected and then it's remitted to the fire department. The one that follows the fire department is police and sheriff, contracting with sheriff's department. So that's number two. Administration is third highest at 879,000. And then Parks and Rec follows that one at 669,000. This kind of just gives you an idea of how things are being expended. Down at the bottom, you can see, again, capital is part of your budget, and also your reserves, that's part of your budget. But if you take out those three things, the capital, the debt service, and then you can start to get a better feel for what your operations are like. And that's how you get an apples to apples year to year. Capital, broken down between basically two categories: community development, that's at 700,000, and then parks and recreation at 392. Community development is broken down between a UDO, which you guys have been talking about now for a few years. That's Mike's department. That's 200,000. And then the farmland preservation is 500,000. Parks and recreation is a combination of a project in the park to facilitate access to existing facility and enhance that, and then also some equipment needs. But the total is a little over $1 million, so it's $1,092,000. Here's your breakdown. So community development encompasses the first two. Farmland preservation, 500, and planning and zoning, 200, parks and rec, 392. At your playground access at 314, and then a truck and trailer was requested by Parks and Rec, and then a backhoe attachment for the Kubota. So that is your capital. Revenue side just kind of gives you a feel for where your revenues are coming from. Tax collection is number one at 3.9. And so that's the one that you have the control over. All the others are coming at you. You have a little bit of control over some of your park and rec fees, or maybe even some of your fees that come through your planning and zoning department. But the controllable one that you have that you can change to get you where you want to go is the ad valorem tax. So that's the 3.9. Anytime you raise a tax, it's not popular. I know that, but sometimes if you just raise the tax incrementally year to year without looking far ahead, you're basically floating your tax rather than perhaps looking to the future, setting that rate, and then allowing yourself then to, you're going to get beat up politically. You always do. But if you set the rate high enough, you generate the income, not just so you have money, it's generating money to fund the things you need to fund. And that's how you make your case. But you take the beating politically, but then you have the money that continues to come in over a 3, 4, 5 year period at that same rate, rather than try to float it each year, is maybe a wise thing perhaps to think about. So again, 3.9, that's your largest. Sales tax is flat. We saw the rise, which all managers were kind of shocked to see expenditures during COVID, but that's what happened when we got some large increases in sales tax. state share revenue. It's projected to be flat. So we're basically projecting the same number that we projected last year, for that. Grant funds, that's an AFP Park grant. And then the, revenue replaced ARPA funds. And so just to reemphasize, you guys have been talking about this, so I know you get it. Once you declare revenues as replaced revenue, you no longer have to comply with the federal standards. So you're not accountable for the federal standards. You can impose any kind of standards on those funds you want to. And so that's basically what you guys have been doing, and you've been trying to respect the spirit, if not the law of the ARPA money. So that's noble, but you have that money now and you don't technically have to abide by federal law, as you know. So we've got PAL bill funds at 174, fund balance appropriated. So we are appropriating $400,000 out of your fund balance, but if you're thinking about it, we're taking $400,000 out of your savings, out of your fund balance. But then if you remember what we talked about in the operating budget, you're basically putting $400,000 back into reserves through your capital reserves. So you're pulling 400,000 out and you're taking 400,000 and putting it right back in reserves, but it is earmarked once it goes back in. So I just wanted to point that out. So your revenues, basically, ceremonially speaking, balance your expenditures. And so the budget is balanced at 7.5, 36,255. So summary, again, budget balances at 7,536,255. It includes $1 million for capital, and that's for community development, parks and rec. It represents a 17.6 decrease in the total budget compared to last year. But it does represent a 7.1 increase in operations. So we back out that debt service, we back out the capital, you can compare apples to apples across each year. So you are looking at a 7.1 increase in cost for operations. Debt service has increased, and that's basically your payment on the property that you purchased, and it chews away at the principal. So next year, the debt service will actually decrease. And so you've had a 65% decrease in capital. So it's a no tax increase budget that's being recommended to you. So it's the same as the current fiscal year. There's an upgrade of a part-time position to a full-time, and the goal is to recruit and hire a finance director last quarter of fiscal year 25. And also, I haven't mentioned yet, but this budget includes the projected cost to do a strategic plan. Strategic plan is the thing that we've talked about some. I've sent information out about that, but it's that process that will help you radically organize and prioritize all the projects that you have and all the documents and everything that you've talked about. And that will help you create that CIP so that you know what projects you need to fund each fiscal year. And then you know really where to set your tax rate. Remember, I talked about taking it up where it needs to be. You start generating the revenue is going to keep coming in, and then you're going to fund those projects in those respective fiscal years. It will help you get organized. You have a CIP. It just needs work. It needs to be enhanced, but you guys have been working on that. Daniel was moving in that direction. So that is the budget, I recommended budget to you, and it balances. These are some outside the box strategic thoughts that I just thought I would throw out there. So the strategic plan would be funded if you pass the budget that's been presented to you tonight. So it would be funded. That would help you get organized. I would recommend you start that July, maybe a first phase. And as you pull in your new manager is going to be immersed in talking about the projects and what needs to be done almost immediately. And it'll be a very rich learning environment for your new manager. But that will be very helpful to that person. But also talking about strategic action, some things that are not funded, they're not part of this budget, is infrastructure assessment. Where's your water and sewer in your existing park? Are your lines appropriately sized? Do you have the valves, cutoff valves in your water lines in the right place? Is your pump station and your sewer line large enough to handle what you're talking about doing over here in the park? Some other things that are probably more nice to haves than got to haves, I would put the infrastructure on the got to have. The nice to haves that could really help you would be to have a market assessment completed. Fletcher's going through that process. I've been through that process in previous towns. But will help you understand the market that's here and the dollars that you're losing to other towns or other economies. But it will help you entice and encourage investment in Mills River, because you can say, this is basically what the market says we have locally. And as your park grows, you're going to aggregate the market. You're going to bring people in, so they're going to be coming into town. But that would be part of your study, and they would help you understand the new market that is here. It's emerging, as well as your existing market. The other would be the branding process and exercise. Taking a look at a group would come in and they would basically take you through a process, and they would talk about the essence of Mills River. What's the nature of Mills River? How do you express yourself with themes and colors and symbols, so that when you communicate out, you're communicating one image and one brand. Right now you've got the logo that's out on the road on your letterhead, but then your Parks and Rec department, they have a different logo and different colors. And so it's I wouldn't say confusing, but you really don't know when you communicate out with different symbols and different colors and different fonts, it doesn't scream necessarily the same message. This process will help you with that. You can marry that with the market assessment. A new recreation operations and maintenance facility. If there's one thing that's pressing upon me since I've been here, is you guys are getting ready to explode with your park expansion. And you are absolutely out of room with your current maintenance facility. So if you're going to talk about building facility and getting ready for the future, I think that ought to be what you put in the crosshairs, is a new maintenance facility. If you do that well and you do it right, you may find you free up capacity inside town hall, so you don't have to add to your town hall. You might want to remodel, refresh, but you could do that in such a way that some of your recreation folks would want to be there. And then you start to free up office space and keeps you from having to build new or build onto the existing structure. But you're probably looking at a $6 or $7 million facility over there if it's done such that aesthetically it's pleasing, it's functional, and you're anticipating all the things you're going to be doing in your park expansion. Design it, program it to accommodate staff over there. You're looking at a significant project. But to do that, you would build capacity. You do that, and then you jump into your park expansion. You're going to be buying equipment. You're going to be hiring personnel. You're talking about a lot of maintenance. It possibly more programming. That's going to be the big driver. It's what I'm seeing. Outsourcing. Tax collection, you certainly could outsource. You may see a reduction in service, but you could do that. That technically is already funded. And if there's anybody on staff that could get you through the process, would be Arlie. The work she's been doing for you is phenomenal. She's a great tax collector, but she's starting to retire, and you do have competent staff. But now would be the time for you to change gears if you want to do that, and you can save some money by outsourcing tax collections to the county. HR services. Asking a town manager to come in and be HR for you is almost like trying to find a unicorn, and depends on who you hire, right? You could hire an HR person and bring them in as your town manager. But to expect your town manager to do the HR piece, I think you guys are wise in saying, hey, why don't we outsource this? Or at least parts of it, and have somebody on the inside that could liaise with that. Kristen, has HR experience in some aspects already built into her background. She would be a great person to be liaise with HR. So if you outsource tax collections and you had somebody on the inside that could help with HR, and you outsourced HR, you're moving, I think, probably in the right direction. Project management services, it's something that you need. And as you think about doing your projects in Mills River, you want to make sure the one that you do, the one in front of you, is done and done well. It just facilitates confidence in the next project rather than moving in the other direction. So I think project management, having someone with some expertise that can get you through a project, make sure it's either on budget or under budget, and it's on time, you're selecting the right contractors. That's a process, and you've got a lot of that to do. It's not like you hire a project manager and they got one project. You've got a lot of that coming at you, and it's either your town manager is going to do that, or it's going to be a combination of your manager and your rec person and rec directors that can be good at this, but it's not necessarily their forte. They're rec people. And so asking them to be project managers may not be the best use of their talent. So just a thought. Your finance director is going to be critical. The projects you've got coming at you, you're probably going to have to finance some of those. And if you were to increase your tax rate, you're going to have the money so that you can basically pay your debt service on the projects that you finance, but you need to do them right. And you need to make sure you've got the money there to do them. Starting with that strategic plan will help you size everything up. If you were to raise your tax rate, you then generate the revenue, make sure you hire the right people that can do these projects one at a time, and you have victory after victory after victory, then you're on your way. And the project manager, that's not funded in this budget, not with the 17 cents, but it's certainly something that needs to be given serious thought. So next steps are next week. And then if you need to have one on the 23rd, we can do that. Then you got your public hearing, and then June 27th would be adoption. And if you hit those targets, you're going to comply with state law. And again, this budget will get you through. There's not a huge amount of innovation or creativity in this budget, but this budget will get you through. Items for the workshop. So what I plan to do tomorrow is pull from our worksheets, basically line items that are based on actual years. So you see what was spent previously in those particular line items, and you can compare that with what is being recommended. And then we'll also send you the fund balance chart, Sue. And that's in front of you already. It's a PDF. I want you to take a look at your fund balance. Wow. Fiscal year 2023, you're 8.2 million. That's unrestricted fund balance. You got money in the bank. Talking with Finance Director Powell right before we came in here, you're probably looking at a fund balance of growing possibly to 8.5 after you put another $500,000 back in fund balance from this year from the monies that aren't spent. So you are in great shape as a town, and you manage your money wisely, and you know you're at the point where you're getting ready to explode as far as the things that you'll be able to do and the service you can provide. Just need to make sure that you can execute that, and it's not on the fly, but you've programmed these things and you methodically work through these issues, these projects, one at a time. Is there anything else you think you guys are gonna need in anticipation of the workshop next Thursday? The line items will be rich and you can dig into those and kind of see whether or not you think we put the right numbers, and line items by department or category tally up at the bottom. And we've provided you with those summaries here this evening. Any comments,
good.
thoughts?
I'm good and wait to see those numbers. Anybody else got a list?
One thing I'd be interested in knowing when we look at outsourcing the taxes, I would be interested in knowing how often will the county issue checks to us for the taxes? Do they do it quarterly or every 6 months? And I would be interested in knowing what the interest earned on that money is compared to what Arlie's salary is. And see, to look at it that way and see which way is gonna be more financially positive for the town.
Any other requests for the workshop? Having the line items will give us a lot to look at
Sure.
for the workshop.
I'll just offer up that, well, first I'll predicate it by saying that this is only my third budget cycle since being appointed on council. It's my third bite of the apple, but in the past, the town manager would come up in the workshop. He'd put up his spreadsheet by department. Of course, that was his worksheet and he'd have all kinds of different tabs and you jump around, but, that's where we would go line item by line item, and whether we do that this year with an interim, that's your call on that, but, and of course, he would dress it up and then he'd incorporate it into the final budget that we'd actually passed, and that was published and released to the public. But so that was sort of my expectation was,
Okay.
He would sort of do some hand holding at the budget workshop level. And on the fly, he would just put it up on the screen and say, and he would have previous years and he would talk about things that stood out to him or anything that would stand out to council members. He would, or we'd address them then, but, that's basically my expectation, which is simply the, I've already told you that I'll be unavailable on the 16th, so
Sure.
I have that luxury, but, I'm not looking for you to make a 100-page budget document, but there just needs to be a little bit of hand holding in terms of just getting down into the line item, as you've already alluded to.
We can do that.
In the workshop, atmosphere.
Sure. Be glad to do that. Anything else?
Anything else? Nope. Okay.
All right,
We'll look
I've
forward to that.
officially handed it off. Now you guys are in control and we're working for you to work through it. So
Sounds good. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the reappointment to the planning board.
So Brian Ross's term expires June 9th of 2024. He is a dedicated member of the planning board. I think he's only missed one meeting, and that's when he had surgery. So if it's your desire to reappoint him with a term ending June 9th, 2026.
Any discussion, comment, motion to reappoint, any of the above? Okay, Shay, I need a second.
I'll second the.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Any more discussion about Brian? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Welcome back aboard. Oh, the amendment to the capital project ordinance.
Excuse me, now I'm coughing. Okay, I mentioned this at your last meeting, that the Hickory Shelter is finally completed. As you know, there were multiple issues with the construction. And the town paid to make some repairs and it was more than repairs. There were things that were not quite done right. And I wish Nicole were here to explain that fully to you exactly what happened, but you were involved in the process and I'm sure you have an idea. Anyway, all of the invoices beyond what we paid the construction company all went into the park budget. I don't believe that's the correct place to be for those invoices to be, because we originally created a capital project fund and we gave it a budget of 500,000. There's still 13,998.59 in that account that could cover some of those invoices. We've spent an additional 28,245.08. So if we move all of that into this capital project fund and increase the budget, it would only be spending an additional 14,246.49 over what you had already approved. And we would have a record, everything would be in one place. If we ever needed to look back with the items that have been absorbed into the park budget, it would be more difficult to track those, what did we fix? What did we do? Where are those invoices? And if it was all in the one fund, it'd be just easier to know exactly what we spent. The next time we go to build one and you ask us, we'll know where it is.
Gotcha.
So my recommendation is to adopt ordinance 2024-07, which is the last two pages of your packet that would increase the capital project fund by 14,246.49. And I'm certainly open to questions. There's a spreadsheet on the actual what we spent with the construction company during the initial building. And then there's another spreadsheet which cost recovery, basically. What all did we spend? Where did we spend it? And how much is left? So I'll answer any questions I can.
Anything for Sue? I'd entertain a motion to approve that ordinance.
Mayor Goins, I'll move that we approve ordinance 2024-07, amending the capital project ordinance for the Hickory Shelter as presented.
Thank you. Second? Thanks, Shay. Any more discussion on this? Hearing none?
I'm glad this is finished and done, and I hope we don't go through anything like this again.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. All right. When we get caught up, we'll hear our staff updates, starting with the town clerk financial director.
I don't have much. I'll just tell you that we've already reached the point of the year where we're cleaning out files, purging records, and updating spreadsheets for the audit, which to me feels like it's looming, even though we're 2 months away. But your fiscal year end is coming, so we're trying to organize and get ready for that.
Anybody else? Y'all good? Okay. All right. Plan director.
Yeah, the only item I wanted to mention tonight is we had a very productive planning board meeting on Tuesday. So just wanted to update you on some of the actions taken. Text amendment 2402, that's establishing the new rural residential zoning district just in the town code, not applying it to properties. Planning board made some changes, but chose to basically recommend that for approval at the meeting this week. So you should see that coming forward at a future council meeting. They also moved forward with the comprehensive plan and future land use map amendment, again, mainly focusing on removing rural residential, now rural agricultural designation from the Ray Hill Road area on Boylston Highway. And then lastly, and probably most importantly, the planning board called for a special meeting on Tuesday, July 23rd at 6 PM, which will be our rezoning public input meeting. So that gives us staff a date to inform the public. We'll send out direct mailers to the affected residents in the potential area of rezoning, do an online survey, and advertise that date to the public.
Awesome. All right, thank you, Mr. Baldwin. You good? All right, council comments? Anything? It dawned on me a while ago that, if this facilitator, y'all probably need us by motion if we're following through with this facilitator for Monday. Correct? Wouldn't that be a wise thing to do at this point? So if we're moving through with that, I need a yay or nay on that. And then if we are, we need to, make a motion to approve that expenditure.
And to authorize someone to sign that contract.
Okay. Anybody?
I'll make a motion that we look at hiring a facilitator for a upcoming meeting with the interim town manager to sign the contract.
Okay, I got a motion. Do we have a second? Anybody? You sure? Okay. I got any discussion? Anybody got anything?
My piece of discussion is simply limited to that, almost like a meeting before the meeting, just to determine the necessity of facilitator. I'm not sure, I'm not 100% convinced that we need to employ the services of a consultant to resolve certain issues. So I just put that out there that if we could have a meeting before the meeting, then I think it would make it clear, at least in my mind, about the need to spend taxpayer dollars on facilitator.
If we did so, we'd have to do it pretty much ASAP, because the reason I thought about this is that meeting is Monday afternoon, correct? So, yeah. Not to say it can't be done, but we'd need to know.
I guess clarification, I'm not sure the meeting that I'm referring to would be a public meeting. It'd be with one, maybe two council members and staff. It wouldn't necessarily be a public meeting. It'd be a staff meeting that included maybe one or two council members. And maybe the town's attorney would dictate. Can you tell me if the intended consultant, have they devoted resources and time to Monday's meetings for upon it that, you know, if we were to change act, would that be a not, well, I'm not sure how to characterize it, but nonetheless, would that mean that the facilitator has expended resources that aren't recoverable?
Well, I don't think she gives them for that's the things where you need to. But it's going to be very good with something that is very like the 13th and 3rd, coordinated with the attorney, staff, guys, those. Taking that whole process. Give as meet on 13th and 3rd. Basically, 13th Wesley, but 7th around the opinions. Council representatives. heard all knowledge, all possibilities of the consensus of that, and have a plan that council. It's not, it's process, it's very involved, with all parties heard. All options, favor. All. Ideas, all.
Members Baldwin, have you seen the contract from facilitator? So it's sort of a lump sum of just
Mhm.
the,
Lump sum with an option, the way I read it.
I'm just curious that, I'm not sure what would come out of the first meeting. It may dictate what happens at the second meeting, or if there's even need for a second meeting. So if, the questions I wanted.
So after I looked at the contract, I think the motion could be amended to the cost not to exceed $3,200 initially on this motion would be what we'd be looking at.
I'm good at amending it to that.
Okay. I got James second. Okay, so I've got a first, second. We've discussed it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. So 4-1. Okay, no problem. All right. 4. I think, any other council comments? I just happened to write that one down. Any others? Hearing none. I need a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Sandra. A second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, all in favor?